this is going to be a fun conversation. I'm actually really excited about this. So, good Lord, I have a lot to update y'all on. And I guess I'll just jump right in on that. So you may have noticed that I've been a little bit MIA lately, that a lot of my posts lately have been like throwbacks and I don't know, like just on Sunday, was it, when I had my friend Matthew come and do a live video for me? Let's give y'all the update on my mental health first, shall we? Because that's always the funnest update. So much has happened in my life, and I have a specific topic I want to catch up with you guys about, but first I'm going to give y'all like the Mary Catherine update. Okay, so things have not been great, to say the least. I always start my depressive episodes by thinking I'm just tired. And it always, like, I always tell my therapist and my friends, I'm like, I'm not tired. I don't think I'm sad. I don't think I'm depressed. I'm just tired. And then like 5 days later, when I haven't left the bed, I'm like, maybe this is depression actually. So just FYI, even though I am an advocate for mental health and, you know, advocating for yourself and going to therapy and getting your meds right, I'm a very good example of do as I say and not as I do, because I struggle with it, y'all. I just do. I don't want to go to my therapy appointments, and I know how much they help me. And anyways, so I've been on a rough spot, and yay, American healthcare. This is all related to how inaccessible healthcare is. So, I was diagnosed recently with ADHD, probably to nobody's surprise. But what has been interesting is there's a big overlap in bipolar 2 and ADHD, symptoms wise. And it's not exactly like a brain test. They don't like give you a scan and say you're bipolar 2 or you're ADHD. Although there are some tests that can show those symptoms, it's not indicated to do a test for that. And so what they do is it's like a list of diagnostics. If you behave a certain way, you end up with a diagnosis. Now, my therapist has always said that your diagnoses are very fluid because the more you learn about somebody, it changes the way that you see a behavior and it can change your diagnosis. But recently, even though I've been diagnosed with bipolar 2 for a very long time, my therapist has been looking into the possibility that I have just major depressive disorder with ADHD. You guys are being so kind about my appearance today, and thank you. I really am trying. A part of me getting up and breaking through a depressive cycle is fixing my hair and doing my makeup and like putting on a bright colored shirt. Generally speaking, if I'm wearing a bright colored shirt, it's because I'm depressed and I'm fighting back. So FYI, black is my happy color in a literal way. If I'm just wearing black, y'all can know I'm in a good spot. If I am wearing bright colors and lipstick, people think I'm doing great. It's the opposite. I'm trying. I'm like putting the foot forward first. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, all of that to say, I was tested out on some ADHD meds. I was on Vyvanse, and it simultaneously fixed my binge eating disorder and my ADHD, my inability to focus. Without any negative side effects. And so my therapist was like, whoa, we should look into this. And I'm like, I mean, maybe, you know, I don't know. Like he was always really anxious about putting me on a stimulant because I have had mania. But it turns out that, I ran out of this med and I couldn't afford to fill it. Because as of right now, I'm being prescribed it for my binge eating disorder because we haven't finished all of the tests for ADHD. And he was like, well, let's try it and see if it has a positive effect. We'll start on a low dose. So I ran out and I went to go refill it. And the script was $250. Yay, American healthcare. That's with my insurance, by the way. And so I couldn't afford to fill it for a couple weeks. I was like, well, I could, but it was like, if I choose to fill this, I'm choosing not to do something else. I mean, my family does live on a budget, you know? And so I didn't fill it. And what I noticed is, you guys, I filled it yesterday. I said, screw this. I'm just going to be broke and have my meds. And I went and filled it. And today I feel like a different person. So I have to explore this idea that maybe I'm ADHD and bipolar 2 or one or the other, but what I know is that the med is working. And what sucks about that is it's so freaking expensive. So I'm like, great, this is what it feels like to be normal, or to feel like I have normal energy levels and ability to pay attention to my tasks. This is what people feel like. And I have to pay $250 a month to experience it. That sucks. So anyways, that's what's been going on with me. And now y'all know that I was just in a really bad spot last week. Also, like, we're just in a significant transition era. My family is like, we are transitioning to the point of our life does not look anything like it did 2 years ago. So welcome to the Backstrom family. Like, I have been, I will reach out to the manufacturer. Thank you, Linda. That's a great idea. I also thought about maybe reaching out to them as an influencer, because what other leverage do I have? I'm like, maybe I can partner with them. Maybe they'll give me some meds. Like, how sad is it that in America, you're like, if I promote your meds, will you give them to me, please, in an affordable way? Like, oh my God, America, come on now. Sydney, you are so amazing, saying, honey, why can't we help you? Y'all do. And so that's actually what I'd love to, let's pivot for a minute, okay? Because I'm going to tell y'all, like, for those of you who've been following me, I have been doing this for 10 years. I am not a like overnight success influencer. I am not somebody that became famous off of one video, although some people think that's the case. My Christmas spirit video was 5 years into my career as a creator on social media. And I had 500,000 followers when that video hit the scene. And so the reason I share all of this, it's not about like the internet fame. What I'm trying to share is that I have been building this audience slowly since my children were babies. And over that time, a lot has changed in my family life. And I've not fully shared that with y'all because you're right, Sydney, I've never asked for money. And I really appreciate you pointing that out. But this is I think it's a fair thing for me to share that, like, yes, a major part of our life being completely different now is we don't have the same financial situation that we did 5 years ago. You know, my husband and I, as a family, decided to walk away from that massive income in order to find peace and happiness. And now we are fighting for our peace and happiness on a budget that is hard. It just is. It's hard. And so as a creator, I have been scrambling for ways to connect with y'all and give you things that are of value, because what I never want to do is ask for money. Because I still acknowledge that I have an immense amount of privilege, you know, in this world. And that if I'm out here, I will never feel like okay asking for money. But what I can do, and I feel comfortable doing, is offering y'all opportunities to support me. So let's talk about that, since you're asking, and I really, really appreciate that. I will never come to y'all and just ask for support financially, but what I will do, you'll notice, is I'll start giving y'all opportunities to support me, and maybe I just need to share those with y'all. So the very first thing that I had done is I launched a shirt last week. Real talk, y'all supported the hell out of that shirt, and it paid my taxes. So now you know when I say that you're supporting a small business, every dollar y'all give to my family, 95 cents of that dollar goes to my family. So y'all are so amazing as an audience. And this is like the perfect pivot point. I didn't even plan it. But does anybody mind right now telling me the timestamp on the video, which I know, once again, I've trained some of y'all to do this correctly, but I don't mean what time it is in the world. It's 9:12 Central. But what I mean is, where are we timestamp wise in the video? Because I need to add it to the caption and tell y'all the whole reason I'm on here, which is an opportunity to support me, yes, but what I'm excited to share with y'all as well. So part of what I do as a creator, the way that like I bring in income for my family, is books and courses. It's only been 2 minutes, Matthew. No freaking way. See, you're wrong. I love you, Matthew, but that is not it. It's 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Oh, but Matthew's only been here for 2 minutes. Love you, bless it. Okay. You guys, can I have somebody say video timestamp so I know that you're paying attention, and give me the timestamp for where we are right now? I love you guys. Please do that. Thank you. All right. So here's what we're going to do. The shirts, they support my family. My courses support my family. My books support my family. And Matt and I have decided to really go into these courses. And the reason I love doing them is because I get to intimately connect with my audience. This is not just some class that I'm like throwing together haphazardly to sell and pay my bills. What I try and do is connect with meaningful other people like Nathan Monk and Matthew Stapley and people that I love and share intimate, amazing, fun moments with y'all in a Zoom environment where I get to have FaceTime and make it financially accessible. So here we are at 10 minutes. I'm going to tell y'all what I've got going on. In the last class that we did, and I'm putting the link up here, and I'm going to ask Matthew to come online. Part of my deconstruction journey lately, and I just put the link up here for the spiritual gifts class, which is I'm so excited to share with y'all because it is a way that I have imagined to connect with y'all, and also y'all can support my family this way. Matthew and I have decided to explore the concept of spiritual gifts together. And there's a reason that we're doing this. I learned in deconstruction a lot of things about my faith that I thought were very stigmatized and taboo and maybe even bad, right? Growing up Southern Baptist, we weren't exactly speaking in tongues. I've been around people that do it, totally fine with me, never weirded me out. But the idea of spiritual gifts was not something we were super comfortable talking about. Even though it's biblical, and even though there are people who are clearly gifted in those ways. And so Maddie and I decided to get together and do a workshop to help people dig through the innate stigma that they've grown up with, maybe the church rules, the discomfort with woo-woo, and try and figure out what their spiritual gifts are. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because I know that I'm a deeply spiritual person, and I'm guessing I have a spiritual gift. Believe it or not, I don't know what my spiritual gift is. I have a lot of emotional awareness because therapy, yay. But spiritually, my faith journey has been a lot of accepting what was taught and not exploring. And now that I'm in that exploration phase, I'm very fascinated by the concept of a spiritual gift. And this is why. When I grew up in school, I was told I was identified as a gifted child. And I struggled academically, big time struggled academically. And what's funny about that is that it is the gifted kids that tend to struggle because they get so frustrated and bored, right? I hated school. I was not made for institutional learning, but my brain was gifted. And unfortunately, that system of public school wasn't going to bring out an author. That's not what that's intended to do, right? And so my gift as a creative was identified young, but as I got older, it was snuffed out because let's be honest, we don't honor those things in ourselves because they're not productive. They don't make us money. And in a society like America, what we value about ourselves are the things that make us beautiful or make us money, right? But those can't be the only things we're feeding or we're going to shrivel and die inside. Okay. So what I wanted to explore is what is the spiritual giftedness that God has promised me in scripture? It says all of us have these gifts. And why don't I know what mine is? And so I thought what a perfect opportunity to have this conversation at the intersection of faith and woo-woo, because I am becoming a lot more comfortable with woo-woo. And some of y'all might have to leave because of that. And I totally respect it and I get it. But my friend Maddie is one of the most spiritually gifted people I've ever met and has taught me a lot about myself, and I am still a person of faith. And so before I did this video, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? You're right. I always have hated when people talk about spiritual gifts, and the very first thing they mention is speaking in tongues. And this is such a great point, Raina, because I grew up in that, right? And that was all I was limited to understanding, is that there's the tongues, and then we get really weird about it, and we're like, there's discernment. There's all kinds of things. Like, we know what they are, but we don't really embrace them. So let's bring Maddie on. And what we're going to do today, and I would love for y'all to join our course, is in this course, Maddie is a teacher, and I am a moderator. And I am going to be, Thomas, that's a great question. Are we basing spiritual gifts in 1 Corinthians and Ephesians? This is an intersectional course, which means that my friend who is an interfaith minister and does like medium work and is very woo-woo will be bringing his perspective to the table, and I will be asking questions from a Christian perspective. And what I have found and what's been really beautiful about this is every time I have these conversations with Maddie, who just has rejected all of the stigma that comes from denominational culture, I find out something about myself that sticks. And I'm a Christian. And there's biblical basis for this. Oh, Devin, great question. What is woo-woo? Well, first of all, let's bring on Maddie and I'll introduce you to my woo-woo, okay? Hold on a second. All right, I'm inviting my bestie on here, and he's one of my dearest people. Yes, Rebecca, and that's a great point. And so we're going to be discussing all of this. What are spiritual gifts? What is your spiritual gift? Hey, love, we're getting really great questions already. And so what I wanted to do, can I hear you, by the way?
Can you hear me?
Just making sure. My phone hates you though. Every time I get off, every time I'm on video with you live, I can't hear you well. And then when I get off the live, I'm like, oh, he was perfectly fine. So I'm just gonna have to shut up and let you talk. But so first of all, we've had quite a few questions. The first one is, what is woo-woo? And I'm gonna hop on that, and then I think we should talk about why our friendship has made so much sense.
Yeah.
People don't, and some people are like, I don't get it. Okay. So let's talk about what woo-woo is. Woo-woo is a kind of a Southern, an American Southern colloquialism, I think. It's spread, but generally speaking, it's something that Christians say about deeply spiritual things that make us uncomfortable. Yeah. For instance, maybe you go to New Orleans and you walk into a shop and you see like a something in a jar and you're like, oh, that's very woo-woo, not sure that I'm about this. But then there's people like my mama who has a weird closet, and she's had this ever since I grew up, where there's all kinds of Christian iconography in it, but it doesn't feel Christian at all. It feels very woo-woo. You know what I'm saying? Like you've walked into a weird space, right? Okay. Yeah. So woo-woo encapsulates the spiritual realm that we don't really embrace or understand, but we see it and we acknowledge that it's there. And so then we kind of jokingly tease our friends who are woo-woo. Like, oh, she's very woo-woo. She's into the oils and the prayers, and she goes to one of those weird mediums like Matthew Stapley. She's very woo-woo, right? So what Maddie and I decided to do is create a course that is intersectional between Christianity and woo-woo. Why? Because what I'm discovering in deconstruction is that I am actually allowed to encounter God in different ways than I was taught were acceptable. Yeah. And that even in the Bible, it is encouraged to know your spiritual gift. And so it's funny, I reached out to my friend Matthew, who's an interfaith minister and outside of my church beliefs, to explore, what do these look like? What are you seeing in this world? And then how can I reconcile that to my faith? So this is new and it's very intersectional. And I thought that was important. Like I was excited to have this conversation that's at the corner of Jesus and my weirdos. And so what does that look like and how can we develop it? So when I called Matthew, and I swear I'm done talking, Maddie, I said, no, Maddie, I want to teach this course with you, and I'm so excited about the content. I think it's very important. And I just realized something. I don't know my spiritual gift, and that's very funny. So let's have that conversation with the audience, and I guarantee you it will show them the value of our friendship and our conversations, and also why we're doing the course.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And, I think when people think of spiritual gift, I think they do jump to like, weird. I mean, I identify as weird, and I'm good with it.
It's weird.
I do. I totally. I always tell people like, don't be a stranger, but be strange. Like, I really believe that we're all like our own brand of weird in different ways. Like, I met somebody that actually, never mind. It's not even worth talking about. So anyway.
Sorry, you have to now. You have to. Sorry.
Okay, so they had Crocs, but then they put jewels on them these little trinkets, and when they walked, you could hear a swishing sound. Anyway, I accepted them for who they are, and we're just done with talking about it. But
Are you being judgmental about Crocs again
it
on
just,
my internet?
can we just pretend I was speaking in tongues from like some kind of fashion spirit? No. Okay.
Listen,
Uh,
you have a spirit of judgment right now, and I'm feeling very oppressed. I'm just kidding. Crocs are the worst. It's valid. We can make fun of Crocs. We're fine with
there you
that.
go.
And if you wear Crocs, we love you for it.
We believe all things can be healed. All
All
things,
things can be healed,
all
even
things
your
can be healed.
bedazzled Crocs. But let's
Oh,
say, Maddie, I called you and we have not had the conversation yet. So this is
yes,
happening in real
true.
time.
All
What do
right.
you think my spiritual gift is?
Do you know what? I think you have more than one, and I think this is a really good example of how when people think spiritual gift, they think something crazy and weird, and not Crocs weird, but like weird, and they don't realize how grounded or integrated a spiritual gift can actually be, because it's part of who we are. This is something that we're all already using, even when we're not aware of it, because it's like another arm or something,
So
so it's
being
just there.
empathic, is that a
That is
spiritual gift?
that is one. And the other one that I've noticed that you have is an ability called transmutation, which is where you can take in really negative energy and turn it into something positive, kind of like a tree, right? It pulls in carbon dioxide and it puts out oxygen, and you do that through talking with people, through the work. You find you find yourself in some really dark waters in terms of the places that you bring love to, and so that's an example of transmutation. It's transformative ability, and it is part leadership, but also part healer. It's part being able to balance things that look like they're in opposition. And so that's a very powerful ability.
And this
And
is
I
what
think
I
that's
love about you,
beautiful.
Matthew. When you say stuff,
Yeah.
the stigma of woo-woo for
Yeah.
me kept me away from conversations with people like you, because I thought this is very new age, this is
Right.
very dangerous theologically. But what you just said, it reminds me of when I used to take college courses in psychology.
Yeah.
And sitting in psychology was the easiest thing in the world for me, because all they were telling me was something I already knew about myself, but they were giving me language to describe it. And
Exactly. And that
I
is
feel that
the
way
thing.
every time I have a conversation with you.
Yeah, and you know what? And likewise, actually, I think that what you bring, no, it's true. What you bring to me is like it's gonna sound weird, but it's me,
We
so
start
no surprise.
so many statements that way. It's
I
fine.
know, I
People
know.
expect it.
It's true. I don't need to announce it anymore. But yeah, no, what you bring to me, and I see it as your spiritual gift in action, is acceptance, is love, is support and nurturing, and all of these things. I think that spiritual gifts can be anything from somebody like me who can see people who have passed away and talk to them,
Yeah.
down to people who can make that muffin that just fixes your whole day. Right? There's
It does
tons.
feel like some people put something special in those
They do.
muffins.
And these are all aspects
Is
of,
that a
the way
healer?
that
Do
I think
healers
it,
put their like good heart kindness into their
I,
cookies and give them to people, and you're
I
like, something
totally
about that
think
cookie?
I think they do. And, basically what a spiritual gift is, it's more of like a window than anything else. It is an ability for divinity to work through us. And I always say that God loves us also through each other. And I think spiritual gifts is a perfect example of that love in action, because it is a moment where the universe, divinity, God, whatever it is that you believe in, your higher ups, they have that opportunity to work through somebody else to your benefit, and using gifts and abilities and things like that. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that when we as people become open to the idea of doing it consciously or on purpose, not only do we feel a greater sense of connection with,
Yeah,
like our higher power,
yeah,
but we also are making the world a better and more peaceful place. And you will see that different types of gifts draw people to different professions, even like,
yeah.
for example, your husband, phenomenal example, amazing healer, but also somebody who's a visionary,
Yeah.
and that is able to like bring some light to, again,
So
like
can
you,
I
to some
ask you a
pretty
specific question? Because let's
yeah,
make it about the course real quick.
yeah, sure.
Why would somebody like myself um why would they not know what their spiritual gift is? Why would that be suppressed? What are some outside factors for why
Yeah.
we don't reach that space in us and work on it? And then also, in the same way that therapy heals your mental health,
Yes.
what is the spiritual equivalent of, you know, healing the spaces
Spiritual.
that you've been suppressing and ignoring, allowing them
Yeah.
to, like, are we going to cover that in the
We're
class?
totally going to cover that. Yeah, because anytime we're suppressing something that is naturally a part of us, we're kind of jamming our flow, right? We're not actually in a space where we're present with the world around us. So actually working with the elements that we suppress within ourselves, it actually brings us more into the present and more into the moment. As you and me and everyone else on the planet at this point probably knows, healing and joy and happiness and things like that are only found in the present. We can't have that 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes from now. It's here. And so anytime that we open something up that we have suppressed or blocked within ourselves that is naturally part of who we are, we actually step into flow and we're actually in the moment and we're more ourselves. And
I saw a
there's,
word pop up in here and it makes me think of what you're
yeah,
saying. And so I'm going to read it and I want you to tell me if that is what we're
sure,
talking about, okay?
sure, yeah,
Megan says, I'm on the fence about God, and when I see kindness and love, I believe in him more. But when I see Christians being harmful and judgmental and hurting people, then I don't believe so much. I wish other Christians understood that God is love. Actually, I read the wrong comment, but I do want to address that just a
I
second.
love that
There's
comment.
two Megans. Megan, both of them made great comments. Then there's Megan that said, intention-based living is underrated.
Yeah,
Real quick, you hold on to that one
yes,
because I want you to address that because I feel like
sure.
flow has a lot to do with
Oh, it
intention.
does,
Is that correct?
100%.
Okay, so what I was going to address though with Megan is yes, I agree with you. And like a big part of my deconstruction ride, and actually what I'm writing about right now in my new book, which I'm super excited to share with y'all, but it's a while away, is I'm kind of had this like weird heresy era where I like was unhinged and having like this Christian version of Rumspringa where I was like, I hate church. I love Jesus though. And I believe in Jesus. And so now it's just me and Jesus take on the world. And in that moment, what happened is I started connecting with all of these people who my world considers heretics. Maddie, you're one of them. And it was weird. Nathan Monk is a great
Yeah.
example of this. And I started developing these deep, beautiful relationships. And I was bonding over spiritual confusion. I was calling, I was like, hey, I am struggling with this. Can we talk about this? And you know what's really wild is I left the church seeking God, and I found God in these people. And I felt like I was shaking off church, but what I was really doing was rediscovering church. Church is people. And when we feel like we're experiencing God's love and we're in the presence of somebody, that this is what's wild is I had to ask this question. If I'm with my friend Maddie and we're having a conversation